It's the Central Weekly, a weekly podcast from the Central Podcast Network. You've got lead pastor Jon Henninger.
Hi, Jared.
It's not a game. We're not introducing a lineup here.
And now.
And then it's me, Jared LaCrone.
Jared LaCrone.
So here's what we got, ladies and gentlemen. Last week was a spectacular episode. I loved our guest, Meredith Foster.
Meredith Foster from the Unfolding Podcast on WBGO.
She did a great job. I love that she was a Southern Illinois girl. But here's the thing. There was just one of her. Guess how many people we have on the podcast for our guest this week, Jon?
How many people do we have as guests on the podcast this week, Jared?
You would think a big number would be like 4 or 5. Wow,
Yeah.
4 or 5 guests on the podcast? That's obscene.
Unbelievable.
No. 16!
What?
16!
Oh my
So
goodness.
here's what we're doing, and I love how God has orchestrated this. Week 3 of Fresh New Full here at Central is all about the company we keep.
It is.
And your biggest thing is talking about groups and the group setting and how that is what God's best is for us. That's a fresh, full life right there.
It's about the people we have surrounding us as we walk through life. There's power for life or death, good or bad, in the people that you have surrounding you.
And so we brought in the Pierce small group, and that is Adam and Kaelin Pierce. We brought them in. We had some fun with this because we actually recorded our conversation with all 16 of them. And you might have seen that in service this weekend, but you're listening in for the entire service or the entire thing that we did with them. And our hope is really that it's just a great group of people that have gotten together that had a lot in common to begin with, but now they're sharing life together around the Bible, around what God is moving in their life, and they've learned so much. And like Adam says here in just a couple minutes, this group has really opened up. Maybe they had themselves when they weren't there, around other people, they were a little quiet, didn't really talk a lot, but now they're talking about what God is doing in their lives a whole lot with each other and learning from each other.
Yeah.
So this is a conversation that I'm super, super, super excited about. That's a lot of supers.
That is 3 supers. That is quite exciting.
So here's the thing, and they're going to be on as our guest. And here's the thing, I didn't ask them the question, how has God been working in your life lately? Because they kind of
The whole conversation's
It's the
about
whole
that.
conversation.
Right, sure.
So it's a great group. We're really appreciative of them taking the time to do that. And you're going to hear their kids in the background of the conversation.
Yeah.
So it's just really fun. And we're really glad that they had a chance to do that. And for you to hear that, not you, Jon, but you, the listener.
The listener.
So we talked week 3, fresh, new, full, all about the mob mentality.
The company that you keep. Yep, the mob mentality. It's a real thing.
It really is. Because I know when I'm around, because we're both extroverts.
Yeah.
And if we're around the wrong people, we tend to do the wrong things.
You can get caught up in. I shared a story about when I was in Washington, D.C., and I remember it very clearly. I mean, I thought, well, I'm going to jail. It's just how it felt.
I mean, so it just did not think that this could be a cop when you pounded on that hood.
Dude. I mean, hindsight, of course.
Of course.
You're in Washington, D.C., and a car is making its way. Of course it's some sort of an agent,
Yeah, an agent.
Yeah.
So they didn't arrest you. Did they do anything else besides whoop, whoop?
No, the guy, he turned on the lights and he popped out of the car.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and he said, "Who did that?" And
Hey, what did you do?
I said, "It was me."
And he said,
I can't remember.
How old were you again?
It was the summer after I graduated high school, so
Okay.
21. No, I was just kidding.
Just a punk kid.
This is 18.
But I loved how you said that the thief in almost the context of this lesson, there is, yes, a thief that kills, steals, and destroys. That is the devil. But there's also thieves that can kill the best life that God has for us.
Here's what I think. I think that there is a thief, but he plays the role. It plays the role of many different kinds of thieves.
Yes.
I think the rest that you get, the company you keep, anxiety, everything that we're talking about in this series is really an element of the way that the thief presents himself in our lives. And often the thief that keeps us from the best life that God has for us is the people we have in our lives.
Yeah, and your first main point was, the standards of the company you keep will eventually creep into your life. This isn't something you can control. I mean, you can control if you're around them or not.
Right.
But how they influence you, it's going to happen.
Right.
And you're crazy if you think it doesn't.
I mean, everything from parents to friends, right? I mean, like there's that age-old, more things are caught than taught. I mean, it's the same thing in our other relationships. I mean, you don't have to necessarily say, hey, we're going to start kind of going against God's ways here, but just as the tide moves, when you're caught with that crowd, you get swept up in it.
Yeah, and you're really talking about those core relationships,
right?
We know that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say this is not like those. This is not, I don't believe scripture is saying like you shouldn't be associated with non-Christians because we wouldn't be able to fulfill the Great Commission if that were the case. Yeah. This is talking about like those relationships that are the core ones in your life. Don't be unequally yoked.
Yeah. This was kind of my coming back to Christ moment back in, it was probably 8th grade. Yeah. I mean, I vividly remember we had a new youth pastor come in, Greg Zander. He was different than me in every way possible. He was just, my dad thought he was crazy, but he was perfect for me at that time because he made me reevaluate how I viewed the Bible and how I reviewed my relationship with Christ so much. So anyways, Greg came in at this time and I had like the popular friends that I grew up with and they were friends that I've had since elementary school. Those were the guys that, I could call on. We were always doing stuff together, but I knew what I was like when I was around them. I wasn't my best.
Yeah.
But then I also knew I had this great flourishing youth group. I had this new youth pastor that's pouring into me, and I could literally see two different avenues that I was going to take. Was I going to take this popular road that was wide and with the friends that I've had forever, or am I going to take this narrow road with where what I'm hearing about in my youth group lines up with the Bible? Those are the friends that I know that are leading me that way.
Yeah.
And so I really did. I mean, it was a cautious a conscience effort of, okay, I'm not going to just turn my back on these guys, but I'm not going to hang out with them as much. I'm not going to pursue those relationships as much. And it really was neat because throughout, it was senior year, you always kind of come together as a group, you know, as that. And so we were able to kind of not patch things up, but have conversations that maybe I should have had when I did depart and say, hey, this is why I'm doing this. I should have done that. Because there were just things like at parties and with girls that I knew that's not what I should be doing. And it made me uncomfortable. It was the Holy Spirit saying, hey, that's not right.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, big thing for me, even as a thing. And that's the thing when we were talking with Trevor about your lesson, and I know actually Zach, he said this is a type of lesson that you would hear a lot for students. Yeah. But if you think it only pertains to students and you're an adult just thinking, oh, this doesn't really bother, it does. Right. It really does.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about it in the lesson, but really it's everything from your friendships to your business partners to your life mate, I mean, your marriage partner. This whole unequally yoked concept really has an impact on, I believe that really is God's will for us, is that we wouldn't be unequally yoked in any of those significant areas.
And I loved how you said that about the business relationships. We really evaluate our business relationships thinking, okay, if I'm in this scenario with these business people, they're going to either put me in the right place that I want to be or they're not. Why don't we do that with our core relationships? We don't. We don't think, okay. And then like you said last week with spiritual disciplines, those are the things we kind of put to the side.
Right.
They really are. So, and here's the cool thing. I loved that you use Peter for our example in this lesson.
I mean, honest to goodness, like I felt like God kind of opened my eyes to that story. It is something that I had never noticed before. Anytime that I've read that story about Peter on the day of Pentecost, I always pick up on and then Peter stepped forward, and it feels like this story of restoration. He had just failed, and that's always the part that I had picked up on, and really. Until God kind of guided my heart in this direction, I had never noticed the factor of the people around him.
And you really said that was a God moment for you, the realization of Peter being the person that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I praying about it, asking God, what would be the scriptural example of this playing out? And I mean, there's a lot of things that you could select. I mean, you could look at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You could look at the disciples. You could look at, Paul and Timothy. And, I mean, you could look at a bunch of different examples of togetherness. But I think that Peter is just a really unique example of two relatively close situations, time-wise, probably, a couple of months apart. One, he's by himself and he fails. Two, he's surrounded by like-minded believers, and there's one of the most powerful moments in the church.
It started the church.
Yeah.
It was really neat, too, that you brought up Peter, because last week at lunch, Caden, our one and only video guy, Caden Vaughn, he brought up a question that was in their men's Bible study. And the question was, who do you name two, so Bible characters, even though I don't like the word Bible characters, Bible people in the Bible, who do you identify with most? And then their second person would be, who do you aspire to be? And you can't say Jesus. That's obvious. But for me, it was I identify most with Peter, but I also hope to inspire. So I identify most with Peter pre-fish meal with Jesus.
Okay.
And I aspire to be more post-fish meal with Jesus. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Because I think that was his changing point for him. A relationship with Jesus, and Jesus going out of the way to develop that changed the heart of Peter, because Jesus said, I forgive you. How many times? 77. Yeah. And I think that conversation spurred him on to the growth that he had, and then put the people around him that needed to be, that gave him the confidence to be the person that Jesus wanted him to be.
So you're talking about the fish meal on the beach when
Exactly.
when Peter's out fishing,
Exactly.
and they see Jesus on the seashore.
Thank you for the context.
Well, I just want to make sure everybody understands.
Yep.
They see Jesus on the seashore. He had risen from the dead, and the disciples come in, and Peter runs to him.
Yeah.
And Jesus, this is the situation where Jesus asks him. This is the first conversation Jesus had with Peter after the resurrection, and
After he
Jesus
failed.
says, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, you know I do. And then Jesus says it again, Peter, do you love me? You know I do. Third time, Jesus asks 3 times, Peter, do you love me? And it gives Peter the chance 3 times to declare his love for Christ when he had just denied him 3 times. And it's kind of this restorative moment. And like you said, that is really kind of the launching point for the future powerful ministry of Peter.
Yeah. And gosh, and I mean, and like you said, I would have never thought about company in that context with Peter at Pentecost.
I wouldn't either.
There's a lot of P's going on. So here's the thing. This was not a sermon just to promote Life Groups at Central. No. Because I think it was almost, you had the plan to do this week.
Oh, yeah.
Really prior to our group schedule.
For sure.
Which was so cool how this worked out.
Yeah.
So anyways, I love this line that I want to talk about is the supernatural versus the natural. In the supernatural, we have the Holy Spirit, who guides, directs, comforts us,
Absolutely.
encourages us.
If you're a Christian, the Holy Spirit lives in your life, and you are never truly alone.
But then in this life, we also have the natural, which is the people that we put around us. Are they going to be the ones that encourage, protect, inspire us, or are they going to do the opposite? So yeah, go ahead.
I think God gives us the people that we surround ourselves with will have influence on our lives. And so God gives us the Holy Spirit in the supernatural so that we're never alone. But in the natural, he gives us each other so that we can receive the help we need that we wouldn't have otherwise, hand in hand, arm in arm, that we can support and strengthen one another.
Yeah. And I loved that your line, salt is more noticeable when there's lots of it.
I think about, Jeremy Redmond and I made a meal.
I love that you bring it up, Jeremy Redmond. We'll give some context to that too.
So Jeremy Redmond and I made a meal one time. And obviously he's a culinary expert.
He is.
I am, at least at the time, was the opposite. Never cooked a chicken breast in my life.
But you ate a lot.
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking in life, I've been on the receiving end of the plate. I've been on that side of the eating side of the plate. But so we made some chicken breasts, and holy mackerel, man. I thought that I was making this chicken breast look really good with all this seasoning. It was literally a salt crusted chicken breast. And I mean, Sarah couldn't eat it, not a bite.
And it's funny because we're friends with Eric Lyday, who probably would have enjoyed that meal and not said a word about it because he is a salt
guy.
Crazy. And then his biggest influence in his life is Jeremy Redmond, who they figured out ways to cook with less salt because of their son Fender, who had liver problems, right? That
Kidney,
he couldn't,
I think, right?
Yeah, yes, that he couldn't take out that much sodium.
Yeah.
So it was just like funny thoughts came to all my mind when you brought up salt. And two, we're a popcorn. The one that goes around the kettle thing.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking? Stir crazy popcorn.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Whatever ones do you put the big plastic bowl on top and then the thing spins around. People know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But we're really into that now, and the girls like to make that.
Okay.
And if I am not the one that puts the salt on, The girls just, they put so much salt on their popcorn because it comes out quick. I know that.
Yeah.
But I can definitely tell if somebody else or the girls put that salt on, because like you said, salt is more noticeable when there's a whole lot of it.
You know who is big in salt? Mm-hmm. Abraham's wife, Sarah.
Oh. That's a lot of salt talk that we
That is a lot of salt talk.
And another salt talk, our group in high school that the friends that I started going with, they were salt. It was students LT.
Wow.
But it was our Christian group basically
Nice.
at church, at school. But I can't think of what that was. Anyways.
There used to be, way back, this is so churchy. And so it's funny. There used to be a group of old people who walked around the church building and did like calisthenics, just on
here in our building,
in this church building, and they called themselves SALT, and it stood for, brace yourselves, folks. It was the senior adult limbering time. It's just like I want to come up with some sort of a.
Well, here's the thing. No, that was fish groups. Never mind. I was getting confused on acronyms. Why is it in the church we don't use as many acronyms as we used to? I mean, the church body used to use acronyms out the wazoo.
Yeah, right. SALT.
But it is funny that we have a podcast called Praise Podcast, and that's an acronym.
PRAISE.
Yeah, it is. And it's really funny when you search Praise Podcast, you got to put in those decimals. You got to put in those periods.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyways, all that being said, end of salt talk. Here's the thing. This is a great sermon, and I wanted to read this and then give your final thoughts.
Okay.
Because it was Paul's final greetings to the Corinthian church. Mm-hmm. Dear brothers and sisters, in 2 Corinthians 13:11, I close my letter and with these last words: be joyful, grow to maturity, encourage one another, live in harmony and peace. Then the God of love and peace will be with you.
Right. Obviously, we want the God of love and peace with us. Yeah. And so there's some pretty clear instruction. Be joyful, grow, encourage one another. There's a ton of scripture about the unity that's needed in our community, because it does a whole lot more. Does a whole lot more than just benefit us, but it pleases God. Psalm 133: how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. And so that's the name of the game.
What's really neat how you mentioned this encouraging, because Tara in our conversation in just a couple minutes is going to mention that and how big of an encouragement her group has been to her, and how encouraging one another is so encouraging. Yeah. So here's the thing: we're gonna take just a quick break, and then we're going to assemble the 16. Really, we've already done this, and we're just going to hit the record button. But our hope is that you are inspired, and groups is something that you can get involved with. centralnow.com/groups. If you're listening to this on Sunday, you literally got to do it today, but we're also going to do it. We're going to have more group terms in the future, and there's ongoing groups if you go to centralnow.com/groups. If you can't participate in a groups term here at Central for the winter term, there's ongoing groups that you can be involved with, because we need to put ourselves around people and believers that have the same godly focus as we do. So that's it, John.
That's it, Jared.
Okay.
Let's kick it over.
Here they are. And we're back with episode number 47 of the Central Weekly. Here, this is super special because we have an entire life group. Adam Pierce, this was an idea that we had to maybe chat with some of your members of your life group, and you brought them all in. So there are 16 people as our guest for the Central Weekly this go around. And here's what I want to do. I want to chat about how God has impacted this group, how God has grown this group, things that you have learned in your marriages, in your as families, because we got a lot of kids in this group. What was the number, 23? 23. Okay. So we're going to talk into our mics when we need to. And hopefully this is going to be a great conversation that people can learn from and say, hey, maybe groups is something I need to be challenged with and get involved with. Because our hope is that when you come around a life group or a group at Central, you're not only going to learn a lot about the Bible, you're going to learn about the rhythms of our lives and how we can more have these spiritual disciplines, but we're going to make some friends and grow together. And that's really why we wanted to chat. So here's what we're going to do first. We're going to go around with you guys, and I want you first to kind of tell me a little bit about each of you. So I don't need a long monologue, but I mean, you can if you want to. But tell us who you are, your spouse's name, and then your family, and then maybe a little bit about your Central story and how you really got into this life group.
I'm Kaelin Pierce. Adam is my husband. We have 3 boys, Wade, 16, Ty, 14, and Sawyer, 7. We've been coming to Central. We actually started coming to Central back in about 2005, I would say, for about 7 years. And then when we moved, we started attending a smaller church out closer to our home, and we were there for a few years and then actually ended up back at Central. So we've been here this go around since I think 2016, and just love it.
That's good. So here's, if you're just listening to this podcast and you didn't get a chance to see the video, we've got the women are in the front and the men are in the back. On purpose, because the guys kind of scare me. There's enough facial hair on this stage right now to do some damage. I love it. A lot of flannel, a lot of facial hair. Okay, Alyssa, with that being said, go ahead, Alyssa.
We are Justin and Alyssa Ard. I would be Alyssa. We've been married for about 10 years, and I started attending Central back in, I think it was like 02 or 03 in the old building. I've been here ever since. Justin started attending with me when we started dating in high school, and he's been here ever since. We have 4 children. We have Addie, who's 10, Annie, who's 7, Jackson, who is 4, and Austin, who is 3.
All right. Okay, keep us going. Oh. We don't need to know your pets. There could be a lot of pets in this group, too. Farm animals.
I'm Amanda, and this is my husband, Blake, and we've been going to Central for about 9 years. We have 4 kids. We have Eli, who's 12. We have Hadley, who's 10. Stella is 9, and Willow is 6. And we started going to Central through a small group. Alyssa, our first small group was at their house, and that was about 9 years ago, and we went to another church, and we just kind of wanted to see what Central was all about, and we've been going ever since.
My name is Erin Beavis, and this is my husband, Landon, and we have been going to Central about 10 years, we think. We don't really know. We think about 10 years. Landon had previously came to Central, and then after we got married, I made him go to my small church, and then we ended up here. We have 2 children, Hank, who is 9, and our daughter, Austin, who is 7.
The Heinzmans.
Yes. I am Tara Heinzman, and this is my husband, Tyler Heinzman. We have 4 children. Our daughter, Aubrey, is 15. Our daughter Corey is 11, and our twins are Hunter and Spencer. They are 8. Sometimes we call them Spunter, and sometimes we call them the Velociraptors. We laugh we kind of have this joke in this group because we don't even go here. So we were invited by the Pierces because they were friends of ours. And we actually didn't know anyone else in the group prior to, we knew Blake and Amanda. Sorry, guys. We knew 2 of the couples in the group before we came, yes. And now it's amazing just coming out. We've met with them twice now, and I feel like we've known everyone here our whole lives, so.
And I think that's a testimony to just, again, I say groups at Central a lot, and especially in this interview, but this is not just a Central thing. This is a Big C church. This is a thing where everybody can see how we can grow in groups together. So I love it too, how, the invite from the Pierces have really spawned a lot more friendships that would have been never if it wasn't for that invite. So yeah, thank you guys.
We are Chris and Lindsay Harvey. I've actually been attending Central for about 18 years. He started coming whenever we got married. It's been about 15 years now. And we have Olivia, she is 11, and Toby, he is 6. And we had been wanting to get more involved, and we just didn't know how to until Kaelin and Adam invited us to be part of their group. And it's been great because now we actually feel like we truly belong, and God's really working in connecting us with so many more people that have the same likes and interests and goals in life to be able to grow their faith.
The veteran to the podcast. We got to point this out. No pressure, Lauren. Lauren has been on the Central Weekly before, so introduce us to your talkative husband.
Oh, okay. This is my wonderful husband, Clayton. I am Lauren, and we have been going together to Central probably about 10 years. Is that what we decided? Yes. We've been married almost 8 years. And I attended Central quite some time before he started coming, but I honestly couldn't tell you how long either. I've been a back row church person for quite some time. So this group has, I think, really pushed, I know it's really pushed both of us kind of out of our comfort zone. And yeah, I really much appreciated what everybody's done here for us.
All right, the caboose, the Capses.
All right, we are the Capses. I'm Erica, and this is my husband, Josh, and we've been attending Central for about 4.5 years. We came from a small country church and felt like it was time for a change. So Central's where we landed, and we've been here ever since. We have one child, Jovi. She's almost 5, and she'll tell you that proudly. And we've known the Pierces for quite some time, and I'd say that they're the biggest reason why we're a part of this group right now.
Yeah. Hey, and I want to press it. We have nothing against small churches. I want that. Small country churches. We are not anti-small country churches. There is a plan and a purpose for all of the churches. And that's, again, why I like that the Heinzman is part of this group, because you represent a lot of the backgrounds that really the foundations that we, especially me too, that call our relationship with Jesus started in those small churches, because there's an intimacy through that you really, it's hard to get. And I think it's neat. It's almost like a full circle moment. It took getting involved in a small group at a big church to find that intimacy. So that's just kind of, I wanted that said. Just sort of wanted somebody listening like, gosh, these people hate small churches. But so here's what I want to do next. I want to share a little bit about why you chose to get involved with a group. What was your thought process behind there? And I think we're going to have Adam start us off with that one.
Well, I think for us it was, we came here for like 7 or 8 years first, and we kind of got lost in the big crowd and went to the small church. And when we came back, we both kind of agreed that when we came back, we were going to get involved. And it didn't matter what, we were going to get involved, and groups was one of the first things. So we just kind of looked at each other. You know, it's easy to get lost in the crowd, but it's even easier to volunteer and plug in, and that's what we chose to do. So yeah, we've been here.
And then Lauren,
Here, yep. I and my kids, sorry.
That's a good thing. We've got kids in this room right now, so if you hear cries, one of these moms might pop up and go help.
So I started joining a group individually by myself, and Aaron and I did Rooted together. Like I said, I've been going to church here for many years, set up at the top. I still kind of sit up towards the top, but I just felt the need to, I just felt kind of stuck, and I just needed something else for my family, for myself. So joining the group individually, and then my husband, who does not talk very much, that was just something that I had prayed about, that hoping that we would join a group together, that he would feel comfortable enough, because you don't want to push somebody into that. And then Adam came along and invited us to a group, and we've known them, and so it just worked out great.
It's cool. And then I think we also had that question for Aaron too.
Our story is very similar to Lauren and Adam. But we decided, we were the same. We decided we wanted to be involved more, and we wanted our children to see us being involved more. And we really just have enjoyed the fellowship that we have with our group.
And now, Adam, because we're going to call you the father of this group. Is everybody good with that? Adam's not, but you guys are. Because this is something that a lot of the invites started with you guys. I know, and then we had the Fowlers, and I think you said the Beavises did a Rooted group together. Before. So how did this group, the 16 of you, get started?
It's just invites. I mean, just talking amongst each other. I think the Yards and the Caps and the Richardsons were We were all in the first group rooted together, and then COVID hit, and we that group got cut short, and we reconvened in the marriage group. It was the first time that I got asked to lead a group, facilitate a group, and then James put it on us to start inviting people on our own. So we kind of talked between the Ards and Richardsons, and names got through around, and we asked everybody, and everybody committed.
And so this group, as it is, year and a half, 2 years?
We've been through 3
terms?
3 sessions.
Okay.
Maybe the Heinzmans, have you been through?
We've done 2.
2.
Yeah,
So-
and that's a really neat thing about what James has been doing lately with groups. He's in the past, it would almost be like just a cattle call, like, hey, everybody join a group, and then we put everybody in a group. But lately, it's been, hey, let's find the facilitator, and the facilitator just asks the relationships and the friends that they have. And I see a lot more longevity with those groups because of that. Yes, they might pepper in a couple new people, because it might have a similar, the background that you guys, or somebody that you guys did know from something else, and then they brought in, and that's how groups have grown. But it's been really neat to see specifically this group, Adam, that it started with you. It started you saying yes to James. So if James ever asks a question of you, always say yes. Even before he asks, he'll come up to you, just say yes, and then he'll fill in the question. But really, that just happened from saying yes to James, and then you guys being very purposeful in asking those relationships to form, right? So also, I think we talked a little bit about this. Let me give some specifics about this term. So the winter term of groups at Central starts Sunday, January 29th, and there's 4 options to choose from. The first one is Rooted. I know a lot of you have done Rooted. Rooted is a really good beginner's guide to Christianity, to the Bible, to group setting, and that's why you'll always see Rooted on the term schedule, because it's so foundational to everything we do around here. The other one is Hope is Here. That's the brand new one. I don't know. Which one are you guys doing? Do you know yet, Adam?
Hope is Here.
That one, Hope is Here. And then Rest in War. Rest in War is I've read that book. I haven't done a group with that, but it's really, really good. And then Keys to Freedom. So all 4 of those groups can choose from. And so when you sign up, a lot of times it might be, again, a facilitator asking you and saying, hey, we're doing Keys to Freedom. Sign up and mark Keys to Freedom. And then James knows, put you in Keys to Freedom. But those 4 options, you go to centralnow.com/groups. You sign up, you put your name on there. I bet you guys Adam has sent you links and force you to sign up, because, yeah, exactly. See, I'm getting nods. But really, that's as simple as that. You can centralnow.com/groups. And if you're unsure which one you want to choose, maybe it's a brand new thing for you, decide on which group study you like best, and then that will let God go from there. So, okay, how has God moved in this group? We talked a little bit about the topics. We talked a little bit about the discussions. I want to talk about how this group has served together. Somebody talk a little bit about why you serve in a group setting within this setting.
I feel like the first time we worked as a group, we learned a lot more about each other. I felt like that gave us a chance to connect in a different way, in a more personal way outside of the building. And for me, that was a really neat thing to experience.
And what kind of serving opportunities have you guys done as a group together? I know a little bit of piecing some old groups together, but what have you guys done?
Well, the last serve day, we built beds, delivered beds. I think pretty much the whole group was here. Built a sidewalk for Josh's neighbor. That was a fun. Kaelin and I ended up getting COVID, so I helped frame the sidewalk up and wasn't able to finish the sidewalk. But then Justin had a friend that was needing some help around the house one year, and we all served together and helped clean up around her property. Did some brush cutting, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Justin, tell us about that one story that you guys have of you helping out with the house.
We had this friend of mine named Ava Rawlings, and I've known her for probably 6 or 7 years, and she actually volunteers at the hospital. She has a therapy dog, and whenever people are sick, she goes up there. Well, she was a little bit down on her health, and she'd been having some health issues, and hadn't been able to get out and take care of her yard like she always did. And we all decided that we'd go over there and clean up around her house. Well, we spent the morning visiting with her, doing odds and ends around her house, and you could just see the light in her eyes whenever we did it. And when we were all done and everybody left, she just said that she wanted to come out and let me know how much it meant to her that we came and did that and just visited with her. And she actually passed away 4 days later. But just the look in her eye and the joy and the love that she felt from our group was great.
And so let me talk, just because we talked about serving, let me talk a little bit about the framework when you sign up for a group. James puts in the structure of that, maybe either 6 to 10 week structure that you sign up for based on the study. He puts in there a prayer time that you guys do a prayer group setting together. And he also puts in a serve time. And then of course, you celebrate at the end. We have a worship service at the end of it where we come, we celebrate as a group together. But that serving opportunity, and we talk about this, you talk about this in Rooted, we want these rhythms and these spiritual disciplines to be just part of our life, not just something we do randomly or something we do just as this opportunity that we latch onto, but it's a rhythm of our lives. And I think that's just a testimony to when you serve in a group setting, it's not just you serving the person, but it's almost you break down a barrier and you get to know them more, and you get to see how somebody else lives, and you get a chance to ask them questions, and they get to learn about you guys. And here's the thing too, you all, how many kids do we, I think 23 is the number? That's crazy. To think about the legacy that you guys all are setting, the foundation, the model that you guys are, because we could probably raise our hand, we are not perfect parents, right? But to see them, see you take the challenge and the commitment to get involved, to study and learn about relationships with one another, to me, that's showing so much for your kids. And that's a legacy that you guys are building within them that we might not even see right now, but they'll know about it later. Josh, go ahead.
I would like to add on that serving, on our serve days, something I've enjoyed seeing is our kids serving with us. When we did the concrete, they were holding concrete tools, shovels. They were there with us. It was a family activity, but it was also their friends, we are friends. It was nice that we were doing that all together.
And then what, Josh, while you have the mic, your favorite thing about groups at Central is what?
Childcare.
Free childcare.
It's a guaranteed date night.
That's right. That's right. So that's a plug. That's a legit plug. If you have a group that meets in this building, you get free childcare. So that's right. This group, just one group, we've got to find childcare for 23 people. So if you're listening to this podcast and you are maybe a high schooler that needs to volunteer, because this is a great opportunity to volunteer. We need you. So let's talk some transformation and share some testimonies. What are those big stories that you got, or maybe even, I'm saying big, maybe they're just subtle, small stories, but they've made a big impact in your life?
I don't know that we have the huge transformation story as much as just being able to sit back and see the group grow and see God work in the group. And it's a pretty quiet group of people, and they are slowly opening up. And when we used to close out the groups and ask for somebody to pray, it's always just a silent moment.
Don't worry, when John does that at the pastors' meetings, it's the same way. So.
But this last group time was it was completely different. People started volunteering, and just to see the growth in the group has just been amazing. And it's all because of God and what He's doing in the group. And I don't know, it's really been good just to see everybody grow and grow together.
I think just the friendships that we've had, because even when we don't see each other once a week, we have a continuous text group going where if, pray for someone or I have something going on. And I think that's been huge for us because we are going through a lot of the same stages in our life and the kids, and just our lives get busy, and it's nice to know you have someone always there for you.
Yeah, to really lean on people. Because, if you're not involved in a group, you're missing out on so much life opportunities that God puts before us. Like, you can lean on, we've got teenagers, we've got toddlers in this group. So if you got a toddler and you need to know what's it like having a teenager in the house, this is a group to ask, because we've got them all. So anybody else on that topic?
I was just going to add that it's made me realize that I'm not alone, and that when like we bring up things that are bothering us or we're struggling with that when you're in a group, like Amanda said, everybody's like, oh, I'm going through that too. And it's so secluding if you're not in a group and my mind is really bad. I think a lot and can feel alone, but to be in a group and to know that I'm not alone and I'm not the only one struggling with certain things. So, yeah.
Why should people sign up for a group?
Why not?
Why not? Josh would say free childcare. You're going to have a reputation now, Josh, on this.
I just think because our first group that we did by ourselves, I still laugh because I signed up to be in a women's group. Like I wanted to be in an all women's group, and you did not put me in an all women's group.
That's squarely on me. That's yep.
And I'm serious. The first time that I walked in, I was like, I don't know about this. It was us two. We were married, but our husbands weren't with us. There were 2 high school boys. There were like 2 couples and a few singles. But even though like we don't hang out with those people all the time, we still have relationships. But I learned something even from those people. And so even if you're going at it alone or by yourself, just try it, because you're going to be uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, but you're going to learn something, even about yourself, other people, and more importantly, God.
And that's the cool thing, I think, what Adam said. This group has stretched all of you to in your walk. I think maybe too, there's a lot of times where God might be calling us to something, but we're just a little apprehensive about that. But when we get into a group setting and we learn for how other people have done with these challenges, have dealt with these, and again, life's going to bring a lot of hard things. And to have a group of people that have stepped through some of that together, it really means a lot. And I think it's undervalued. It's undervalued in our world today, but now I think people are waking up to that again. Because we lived in such a time where people were so secluded for so long, we're seeing how much community and what John says, company, really does shape who we are. And this is why God set it up to be this way. God didn't set it up to live life in isolation. He set us up to live in community. And anything else that you guys wanted to share?
One of my favorite things that we did as a group was we all wrote cards to each person and told them what some of them were what we saw in them, or encouraging words or scripture, and to just see how other people see you is so encouraging, because people said things about me that I was like, wow, that was so nice. Like I didn't even think about that, and Tyler and I had already had several discussions after leaving a couple nights. We did date night at Buffalo Wild Wings after like every time we met.
Just extend the child.
And then we went, we left ours at home. So
they just snuck out of the church.
Left him at Central. But we would sit and talk about like how much we loved about, or all the things that we loved about people. And it was like we wanted to just continue, and we would just sit and be like, you know what I really love about this person, or you know what this person brings to the table. It's just, it's so nice to see that Christ's bride really is a body, and every single part of that body is truly needed, and that these people all have things that I don't have, and then I have something that they cherish too, and that we can all come together and be unified as one in Christ and with the Trinity. Like we all get to live in unity.
Anybody else?
I think one of the things for me is at a larger church, when you finally do get connected, the church it slowly becomes smaller, and you start building relationships and start growing, and there's a great reason for us to get involved, just to make connections within the church and just really get plugged in. So.
Well, thanks everybody for taking the time. Thanks for letting the kids stay up late. Thanks, kids. But really, it's neat what you guys talked about, those encouragements, because we need that encouragement in our life. John talks about it in his sermons. He talks about that for us as a staff, to be encouraging. And I love that you guys mentioned that, and that you guys were, taking that next step to do that. And that really, we need that in our lives. We need that confirmation that other people see, like you guys said, see that in us that maybe we don't see in ourselves. So last plug. Central groups start Sunday, January 29th. When this comes out, it's going to come out on Sunday the 23rd. You have one more day to sign up. So sorry, but you have Monday the 23rd is the last day to sign up. James might accept you late. We'll see. I mean, I didn't accept anybody late when I was running things. But here's the deal. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to do this. Thank you for being honest and real in this conversation. Thanks for doing that in your group and also just sharing this in our podcast. So unless anybody has anything else to say, Tyler, yes.
The one thing I would like to say that I like best about groups is, we don't just hang out here at church. We hang out. We had a lake day. We had like a Christmas party, an ugly sweater. We went to Goodwill and we all bought clothes for our spouses. That was funny. I liked it. It was really nice. The times we do hang out that's not here and just see each other grow and our kids just play together and just worship, it goes beyond just small groups. It really does feel like family.
So that is our conversation with the Pierce group. Super excited that you guys were able to listen in to that. That wraps us up for episode number 47 of the Central Weekly. Again, thank you guys. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
And that's it for episode number 47 of the Central Weekly. John, gosh, there's lots of good stuff there.
It's the kind of conversation that'll really pierce your soul, Jared.
Oh, gosh, were you thinking of that? Or did that just come to you right now?
It just comes, man.
Oh, man. It's a gift. I used air quotes. Next week, we're going to look at week number 4 of Fresh New Full. We're going to look at spending. Cha-ching!
There it is.
Again, I need to get sound effects.
I don't think that's next week, though.
Did we switch things?
I don't think so.
Week 4 is comparison.
There it is.
Boom, boom. See you guys. Have a great week, everybody.